Rising from the edge of Lake Constance in Bavaria, Germany, the Lindau Lighthouse stands as a sentinel to both maritime tradition and architectural brilliance. Constructed in the mid-19th century, the lighthouse is a striking monument combining functional necessity with Bavarian flair. Unlike most lighthouses that face the open sea, the Lindau Lighthouse peers across an inland lake, marking the harbour entrance to the picturesque town of Lindau. Lindau itself is steeped in history, a town that dates back to the 9th century and lies on an island connected to the mainland by bridge and rail. The lighthouse and its neighbouring statue, a massive Bavarian lion, form one of Germany's most iconic harbour entrances. Though beautiful and serene today, the lighthouse has been the silent witness to many darker tales, from tragic accidents in the treacherous waters of Lake Constance to whispers of unexplained apparitions within the lighthouse itself. The Lindau Lighthouse was built between 1853 and 1856 and officially commissioned in 1856. As Bavaria's only lighthouse, it had a unique design challenge, blending the aesthetic preferences of King Maximilian II with the growing demands of inland navigation on Lake Constance. This massive lake borders Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, and has long been a crucial waterway for trade and travel. Before the lighthouse, maritime navigation into Lindau's harbour relied on rudimentary torches and bonfires. These methods were often insufficient during stormy or foggy conditions, leading to multiple shipwrecks along the coast. Recognizing the need for a more reliable system, Bavarian authorities initiated plans for a modern lighthouse. The original lighting system used an open oil flame with mirrors to intensify the beam, a standard method before electric lights. One of the lighthouse's most distinctive features is its clock, prominently visible from the harbour. Installed to serve both maritime and local civic functions, the clock reinforced the lighthouse's identity as a public monument. Its architectural style is a blend of Gothic revival and Romanesque elements, giving it a castle-like appearance. Over the decades, technological upgrades transformed the lighthouse from oil to gas and eventually to electric light in 1936. It was automated in the 1990s, but remains operational and publicly accessible. The lighthouse also contains a spiral staircase that leads to an observation platform, offering panoramic views of the lake and surrounding Alps. Lake Constance, known in German as the Bodensee, spans 63 kilometers in length and 14 kilometers in width. Its beauty belies its dangerous nature. The lake is prone to sudden storms, known locally as Föhnstürme, powerful, fast-moving winds that can appear without warning. These meteorological quirks have caused numerous boating and shipping accidents over the centuries. The lake's depth, reaching nearly 254 meters, creates complex water currents. During winter, fog can render visibility nearly non-existent, even with a lighthouse in operation. Early navigation lacked modern sonar or radar, so vessels were heavily reliant on visual markers, heightening the importance of the Lindau Lighthouse. The lake has also been the subject of boundary disputes due to its international positioning. In times of conflict, such as World War I and II, the region became heavily patrolled. Mines and naval barricades were installed, and the lake was used covertly for smuggling operations. All these factors compounded the risks for navigators during these periods. Though often romanticized as a peaceful lake harbour, Lindau's port has seen its share of maritime tragedies. Only a few years after the lighthouse opened, a local schooner named Adler von Lindau capsized during a violent summer storm. Eyewitnesses claimed the boat had tried to make a dash for the lighthouse, but was caught in high waves. Of the 12 on board, only 2 survived. The rest, including a family of 5, drowned within sight of the harbour. One of the coldest winters on record froze portions of Lake Constance. Several pedestrians, mistaking the frozen surface for safe passage, attempted to walk across it near the lighthouse. The ice cracked, swallowing 5 individuals, including 2 schoolchildren. Their bodies were never recovered, leading to rumors that they still haunt the harbor. A sightseeing vessel named Alpenblick caught fire just 500 meters from the lighthouse during a summer evening tour. The fire, caused by an electrical short circuit, led to a panic among the 40 passengers. While rescue efforts saved most, 6 people, including the captain, perished in the flames or drowned while trying to escape. World War II cast a long shadow over Lindau and its lighthouse. During the Nazi regime, Lindau's harbour was used for military logistics. While the lighthouse was never directly targeted by Allied bombing raids, the region was heavily monitored. Local law tells of an incident in 1943 when a boat transporting soldiers sank after colliding with a submerged barrier meant to deter enemy boats. All 18 aboard were lost, and the wreckage was never officially recovered, though sonar scans in later decades found anomalous shapes on the lake bed. Post-war, the lighthouse was temporarily used as an observation post by Allied forces. Soldiers stationed there reported strange happenings: doors slamming shut, disembodied voices, and unexplainable temperature drops, all of which would later feed into paranormal tales. Lighthouses are often solitary places, remote, weather-beaten, and silent, save for the wind and waves. Lindau Lighthouse, despite its scenic location in a lively Bavarian harbour, is no exception when it comes to harbouring unsettling tales. Over the decades, it has developed a reputation not just as a navigational landmark, but as a site steeped in lingering echoes of sorrow, loss, and unexplained phenomena. The blend of tragic history and isolated setting provides fertile ground for ghost stories that have grown in detail and intensity over time. What sets Lindau's legends apart is not just their chilling content, but their consistency across generations. Accounts of eerie sounds, shadowy figures, and sudden, inexplicable changes in atmosphere have been reported by lighthouse keepers, harbour workers, tourists, and paranormal investigators alike. While skeptics argue that these experiences are the result of suggestibility, weather anomalies, or misinterpretations of natural sounds, the number and consistency of these reports have cemented Lindau Lighthouse's place in local and even national folklore. One of the most enduring legends associated with Lindau Lighthouse is that of the Phantom Bell Ringer. This story dates back to the 19th century, just a few years after the lighthouse was commissioned. Several early keepers reported hearing the harbour bell ringing at precisely midnight on stormy nights, even when no one was in the bell tower and no wind was strong enough to move it. The bell, which was originally installed as a signal for approaching ships during low visibility, had a manual mechanism, yet the ringers claimed it would chime rhythmically and deliberately, as if operated by unseen hands. The most detailed early account comes from Friedrich Abel, a lighthouse assistant in the 1870s, who wrote in a letter, "3 times now, on nights when the wind blows hard and the clouds move like ghosts across the moon, I have heard the bell. I climbed the tower with a lantern, fearing sabotage or prank, but found the room empty. The pull rope was swinging, but not in a way the wind could explain." Local lore ties the bell ringer to the 1862 Adler von Lindau schooner tragedy, in which 10 people drowned trying to reach the harbour during a sudden storm. One of the victims was reportedly a sailor who had served as a bell ringer in the harbour during his youth. Some believe his spirit returns on stormy nights, ringing the bell in a desperate effort to guide others to safety, too late for himself, but perhaps just in time for others. One of the most poignant and disturbing stories is associated with the ice tragedy of 1929, in which several townspeople, including 2 children, fell through thin ice near the lighthouse and drowned. According to legend, their spirits never left the harbour. Winter visitors have occasionally reported the sounds of children laughing and calling out names near the water's edge on foggy days. The voices seem to come and go in waves, disappearing abruptly, only to return moments later from a different direction. A few tourists have claimed to see small figures moving along the frozen lake, sometimes holding hands and vanishing without a trace as they approach the lighthouse. The most well-known incident occurred in 1985, when a retired schoolteacher named Martha Engelhardt claimed to have seen two children, no more than 8 years old, dressed in old-fashioned winter coats, walking towards the lighthouse from the lake. As they approached the harbour wall, they faded from view. Engelhardt, a skeptical and respected member of the Lindau community, maintained her story until her death, and her account was later featured in a Bavarian magazine devoted to regional mysteries. The most unnerving of all ghost sightings at Lindau Lighthouse is that of the so-called Silent Watcher, a tall figure seen standing at the very top of the lighthouse platform during late-night hours. This spectre has been described as wearing a long naval coat and cap, but with no visible facial features. Witnesses often describe the face as a void, either shrouded in unnatural shadow or simply featureless. Unlike the other stories, this one is not limited to stormy nights or specific times of year. The figure has been reported throughout the decades, particularly by ferry captains and fishermen returning to port late at night. It never moves, never waves, just stands, facing outward toward the lake, or, sometimes, inward toward the town of Lindau. In 1993, a photograph taken by a German tourist during a nighttime tour appears to show a silhouette on the platform when no one was supposed to be present. Though skeptics dismissed the image as a trick of light and exposure, believers saw it as validation of long-standing reports. Several former lighthouse staff, including maintenance workers and docents, have also reported unsettling feelings of being watched while climbing the tower at night, particularly near the upper levels. One maintenance worker, who asked not to be named, claimed in 2004 that he once saw a man standing in the stairwell during a routine inspection, only for the figure to vanish before his eyes. Another commonly reported phenomenon involves soft whispering sounds heard in the spiral staircase. These whispers are most often reported when individuals ascend the tower alone and during quiet hours. The words are indistinct, and the language is unclear, though some claim to recognize Old German dialects no longer commonly spoken in the region. Visitors have described the voices as sounding close, yet echoing, as though they were coming from within the walls themselves. Paranormal investigators who have used electronic voice phenomena devices in the stairwell claim to have captured faint murmurs and breathing sounds when the tower was otherwise empty. One recording, captured during a 2016 investigation, allegedly contains a whispered phrase interpreted as "Hilf mir," help me. While skeptics argue these could be auditory pareidolia, where the brain interprets random noise as voices, the recordings have intrigued even some conservative investigators. Beyond visual and auditory accounts, there are also reports of physical sensations and environmental anomalies. Sudden drops in temperature, feelings of nausea, and a sense of being pushed while climbing the stairs have all been reported. One guide claimed that during a school tour, 2 children suddenly fainted in the upper chamber of the lighthouse within minutes of each other, despite there being no medical history or high temperatures that day. Metal tools and equipment used in maintenance are sometimes found moved or reoriented overnight, even when the tower is securely locked. Staff who work there long-term refer to such events jokingly as the Lindau Shuffle, though some admit they find it increasingly difficult to dismiss. While the ghost stories of Lindau Lighthouse are widely known and even embraced by the town's tourism industry, they are not without criticism. Meteorologists argue that many sounds, like bell chimes and whispering, can be attributed to unusual acoustics caused by lake fog, wind currents, and the structure's unique cylindrical design. Historians point out that memory distortion and folklore inflation often adds supernatural elements to what were once purely tragic events. Yet the consistency across decades and the credibility of some witnesses, including lighthouse staff, naval officers, and even local clergy, make these tales hard to dismiss entirely. Whether these stories are literal truth, metaphor, or somewhere in between, they form a rich tapestry of local lore that adds depth and mystery to the lighthouse's public identity. Today, Lindau Lighthouse is as much a place of fascination as it is a beacon. Ghost tours, nighttime storytelling events, and paranormal podcasts have helped elevate its reputation as one of Germany's most haunted inland landmarks. While some visitors come for the panoramic views, others come hoping to glimpse the silent watcher, hear a whisper in the stairwell, or feel the echo of history beneath their feet. For believers, it is a site where the veil between past and present thins with each crashing wave. For skeptics, it is a beautiful piece of architecture enriched by compelling folklore. For everyone, the Lindau Lighthouse remains an unforgettable part of the human imagination, standing tall at the crossroads of light and shadow. Lindau Lighthouse features prominently in Bavarian art, literature, and tourism. Countless postcards depict it at sunrise, sunset, or beneath stormy skies. The lighthouse and lion statue together form a symbolic gateway to Bavaria and are frequent subjects in regional folklore. One local legend tells of a water spirit who guards the entrance to the harbour and punishes those who disrespect the lake. This being is often blamed when sudden accidents occur, adding an air of mythological mystique. Artists have also drawn upon these stories. In 1983, the lighthouse was featured in a regional theatre production titled The Lightkeeper's Lament, which fictionalized many of the haunting tales. The play was so popular that it ran for 3 consecutive summers and helped revive interest in the lighthouse's darker history. Today, Lindau Lighthouse is meticulously maintained. Its most recent restoration occurred in 2010, during which its facade was cleaned, the clock face restored, and safety features upgraded. Although it is now automated, the lighthouse occasionally hosts guided tours and exhibitions on regional maritime history. The observation deck remains a popular destination, drawing thousands of tourists every year. Interpretive plaques explain the history of the structure and point out famous landmarks visible from its summit, including the Austrian Alps and the Swiss shoreline. Lindau Lighthouse also plays a role in cultural festivals, including harbour light shows and traditional Bavarian boat parades. The mix of natural beauty, history, and haunting lore makes it a compelling destination for many types of visitors. Accounts of ghostly encounters at the lighthouse are numerous and persistent. In 2016, a paranormal group from Munich spent 2 nights conducting EVP sessions in and around the lighthouse. They reported faint but audible whispering in German and unexplained electromagnetic fluctuations in the stairwell. A former caretaker, Helmut Ziegler, who worked at the lighthouse from 1974 to 1998, gave a series of interviews before his death. He recalled multiple incidents, his tools being moved, doors closing on their own, and once, a full apparition of a man in a 19th century sailor's outfit on the observation deck. While skeptics suggest these occurrences are tricks of the mind or weather-related phenomena, the consistency of the stories across decades lends them weight in the eyes of many believers. With the rise of interest in haunted travel, Lindau Lighthouse has become a noted location for paranormal enthusiasts. Several European ghost tour companies include it on their itineraries, particularly during the autumn season when fog blankets Lake Constance in eerie silence. Documentaries and YouTube channels have also featured the lighthouse. One popular video series titled Ghosts of the Continent documented an overnight stay in the lighthouse and captured alleged unexplained lights and audio anomalies. Local tourism offices have leaned into this niche, offering twilight tours with guides who share the lighthouse's haunted history alongside its architectural and historical significance. Why do lighthouses so frequently become settings for ghost stories? Perhaps it is their isolation, their weather-beaten walls, or their roles as literal and symbolic beacons in darkness. Lindau Lighthouse fits this archetype perfectly. Its tragic past and eerie location create a fertile ground for the imagination. Psychologists argue that ghost stories often reflect societal fears and collective memory. In Lindau's case, the recurring motifs, drowning victims, wartime loss, frozen children, mirror communal trauma, giving these tales enduring resonance. Whether viewed as metaphors, legends, or real phenomena, the ghosts of Lindau serve as custodians of the past, ensuring the tragedies that occurred there are not forgotten. Lindau Lighthouse stands as more than just a navigational aid. It is a historical monument, a cultural symbol, and for many, a place of spiritual intrigue. Its long-standing presence at the harbour of Lake Constance has seen the rise and fall of empires, the devastation of war, and the quiet tragedies of everyday life. Whether you visit to admire its architecture, to learn about maritime history, or to chase whispers in the fog, the lighthouse offers something profound. In its flickering light, once oil, now electric, shines the memory of all who passed before it. Perhaps that is why its ghosts linger.